and then they pick up
Uh-huh.
it as well, was to have candidates file some sort of a declaration saying
Yeah.
they want to be a write-in candidate.
Right.
You could have filed a petition, but John could be a candidate, I could be a candidate, anybody could be a candidate for the
Right.
office you filed for.
Right.
It resoundingly went nowhere. So I don't know, there's a strategy there. You don't want to show your...
We're doing our kitchen, so working on
No,
that.
that's fine.
We have a contractor that I work with. I don't really know what I'm doing. So. Yeah. I do, yeah, Nysboe.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Walsh. I'll be chairing this meeting, and I'd like to introduce my fellow commissioners. On my right,
Douglas Kellner.
Evelyn Aquila.
on my left,
And Gregory Peterson.
and around the table, please, Commissioner.
Todd Valentine.
Kimberly Galvin.
John Conklin. Connor Connolly. Dave Loomis.
Joe Burns.
Anna Savitsra.
Bill McCann. Bob Brem.
Our guest, or staff.
Bob Warren, election operations.
Amy Allo, League of Women Voters.
Casey Sauer from the Times Union.
Welcome all. We have two meetings. One is a very brief one that is called the Board of Canvassers for New York State Board of Elections. We are meeting right now, and we have one item of business to amend the certification of election results for the November 6, 2012 general election. And I would ask Anna or Joe if they would have something to say about this.
Only that we're very confused about why they're amending results in July. We've heard several different stories and nothing that is empirical, so I really don't have anything other than their certification of the results to you.
Well, as specifically, there were additional ballots located that had not been included in the November canvass. The New York City Board of Elections claims that it arose out of the confusion of the transfer of ballots between the boroughs of Manhattan and Brooklyn, arising out of the executive order and the unusual procedures that they were required to adopt in order to handle that. So in any event,
And it will not happen again.
Well,
I know. That's what it
Crazy. So in any event, the idea is to get the number correct and that every vote does in fact count.
that it proves, I guess.
So I move the adoption of the amended canvass.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That concludes the meeting of the Board of Canvassers. We will now move to the regular agenda for our Board of Elections. Business item number one, our minutes of the June 4th, 2013. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Second.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Unit updates, Executive Bob Brem and Todd Valentine. And the winner is?
That would be me. We submit our unit report. I mean, it's the summer season, so obviously it's been a light petition filing year, mostly judicial delegates and state committee offices. And you'll see a little bit later on, there's a review of some of those. Certainly we had the summer meeting for the Election Commissioners Association at the end of the legislative session. And we're continuing our support of the counties with our monthly phone calls. We had to reschedule last week because scheduling conflicts, but we're back on again this week. We have a regular call with them to issues from month to month as they come up. So we're continuing with that. And and Bob can add more on this, but, we have, it's clearly been reported in the papers that the governor has assembled the Moreland Commission to investigate, the election practices. We have had contacts with them. Obviously, they sent us a letter to preserve documents, and we are fully cooperating with them. We've had a couple conference calls to ascertain specifically what they want, because we have a lot of documents, and while most of them are public, just the format issues and just making the transfer of those requests. I don't know if Bob wants to add anything on that.
Not on that particular, and we also have a notice from the state comptroller that it began a audit of procurement of paper voting ballots from scanning. July 15th, we had an initial engagement meeting with them, and they asked us to share that message of the engagement with the county boards of elections. We have our monthly call with the county board on Thursday, and that's one of the agenda items to go over with them so that everybody knows that audit is coming. Generally speaking, the people doing the audit indicated that they would pick a certain number of counties based on geography and size and reach out and look at their ballot procurement issues, and so far that's other than the initial engagement. We haven't heard anything more on that particular topic, and I think the rest is routine work.
Thank you. The legal, Kim Galvin.
Looking at my written unit report, it doesn't seem like there's a lot there, but we have been quite busy, actually. Just to add what Todd and Bob said, we've also participated in all of the Moreland calls and document preservation orders, and with the audit that's been engaged by the state comptroller's office. And we have been actively answering a lot of the calls from the county boards regarding petition access questions on any number of issues that you can think of. But nothing really sticks out other than what's written.
Thank you. Any question? Election operations, Anna, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have been busy. Our filing period was light, as the executive directors indicated. We only received 111 petitions. However, those contained the names of 641 candidates. 3 objections were received, 2 declinations. All of that paperwork was processed. The documentation on the prima facie review was prepared by the counsel's office. The appropriate notices were sent out in the instances of the objections and declinations. We do not acknowledge petitions filed for party positions, so that was a good thing, because the phone calls from county boards requiring support were numerous, and that gave us the time to respond to those boards that needed assistance through the filing period. We will be having our ballot drawing. We have a number of primaries across the state for JD delegate and alternate delegate positions. The drawing will be tomorrow here at the state board, and once that drawing is completed, then we'll prepare our documents to certify those primaries to the county boards involved. The petitions that are filed at the local board for the same positions, Republican State Committee and for JD delegate and alternate, have been requested. County boards have been sending those in, so those are being processed by staff so that we can prepare the official roll calls for the JD conventions and the Republican State Committee reorganizational meeting. We completed the functional testing for the Sequoia Legacy Central Count System. We have that report in your board packet today, if it is your pleasure to vote on it. We have our RFP for voting systems expires in September, so there's a new RFP out. That procurement process is on its way. Our conversation on that topic is limited because of the procurement laws, but it is available to anyone who's interested. 3 letters of intent have been received from vendors, so we're awaiting responses to the RFP. Those will go right to OGS. The,
So that means we do have vendors besides, at least one vendor besides,
we have one, but we're not sure that it's a responsible vendor. We're not sure what it is they're intending to propose in response to the RFP, if it's a voting system or if it's an attempt to propose just for supplies and services. And that would create an issue with OGS, so we'll have to
that's interesting.
review
Yes,
that.
it's very different, than I even had thought.
Yeah.
I think we should
Maybe
mention
ask
that it's worth mentioning that at the election commissioners conference, we explained to the county commissioners at some length the impacts of the expiration of the existing contracts, because the vendors who sold the machines, Dominion and ES&S, will not be responsible for maintenance beyond the expiration of those contracts. And that one of the goals that we've been discussing is how to give the counties maximum flexibility as they make arrangements for following the expiration in a way that will try to encourage some competition, so that they won't necessarily be locked into using the incumbent vendors, especially if the pricing is not competitive.
Is that the problem, Doug, with the vendors staying on if you wanted to high, their prices are so high?
Well, it's all relative. The issue is that obviously there are advantages in having the incumbent vendor continue the maintenance because they have great
Just like when you have a
familiarity with the
washing machine at
machines.
home.
But the other side of it is to make sure that the pricing
Yeah.
is
Is fair.
fair
Yeah.
and competitive.
Yeah, no, that says the contract expires in September. Is there a specific day in September?
I believe it's the 13th. But I can check for you
Oh,
and let you know.
just curious.
Right after the primary.
We had negotiated originally a universal date for the initial lot of voting systems that were purchased to comply with the court order, and the vendors had agreed that it would be the 5 years from the first primary at which they had been used. So that is the date that comes to mind. But I could
Is
be
that a
off by
real
date.
date, or is there some built-in 30-day extension or something? That's
No, they OGS doesn't do business that way,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So the
And,
county boards, if they have a certain type of machine, they may not have been even reminded that they're.
Well, they still have time and materials prices, and the vendors will certainly honor that, and you don't need to buy off the state contract in the first place. So, they do have some options. It won't be as seamless a process, because certainly it was easier when there was a contract and the vouchers were processed through OGS. County boards didn't have to do very much other than get a purchase order from the vendor and send it on to Albany. So now they'd have to do a little bit of work. They were all encouraged, if they had warranty work, get it done
Yeah.
during the summer before all of some of their options expired, not
Before the
necessarily
voting
all of them.
season begins,
Right.
A heavy one this year.
Right. And certainly the vendors, they're not going to leave anybody stranded, but they are on a time and materials basis for a lot of that. Again, they can negotiate any kind of a deal less than what that contract says. That seems to be the spirit of the commitment that they've made to the county boards and expressed to us. Would that be fair?
You care to continue your report?
I've only got two other items. One is that the Supreme Court vacancy list again was amended, so we shared that with New York City. That was the only JD that was affected, and our staff is in the process of completing, and if they're listening, they should complete them today, and I'm one of them that hasn't done it yet. But we have mandatory online sexual harassment training that has to be completed by everyone in the agency, so we're
And we had to do those also.
parsing some
Commissioners had
time out to do that.
also.
Joe, do you have anything? I think that's it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
BRA and Public Information, John Conklin, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just a couple of highlights of the written report. We've been very busy. The July periodic campaign finance filing was due. There's always a lot of press and interest in that. We get a lot of calls and inquiries. Obviously, we've been answering questions with regard to the Moreland Commission as well. Other standard routine items. The PIO unit also made several presentations at the Election Commissioners Conference, the summer meeting. We posted a link including the few petitions that we have received so the interested parties can see them online. Not the whole petition, but the fact that they've been filed. And lastly, with regard to the constitutional amendments that are in your packet, we've started corralling what we need to do in order to comply with the publishing requirement that we have at the end of the year before Election Day to publish all 6 constitutional amendments in the newspapers around the state. So that's probably going to be very expensive.
I know.
So that's it.
Any questions? Thank you.
That's a lot of work, the amendments that you have to put out.
Yeah, we are required to publish
Absolutely,
in at
I
least
know.
one general circulation newspaper in every
Absolutely.
county in the state, and plus the minority language requirements.
Yes.
Campaign finance?
Which can lead you into a maze sometimes.
Campaign finance?
Thank you, Commissioner. Just to update the board on some of our activity in intake and processing. As of our June number, we've crossed the 13,000 threshold for active filers, which is a first, and as of today, we are now over 13,300 active filers. I would remind the board and the public that prior to the modification law in 2005, we would average approximately 1,250 filers in a given year, and so now we have a factor of 10 on that. During the month of June, we registered 483 new committees, with 1,600 plus to date, did some terminations. We've also received close to 1,000 calls from filers in June, with over 6,000 year to date. And also, we just, as John mentioned, had our July periodic filing. We sent out our dunning notices to over 1,700 individuals, which with first class and certifieds and candidate notices under the statute was over 6,000 pieces of mail. The next step in the enforcement for the July periodic will be the filing of the order to show cause, which will be on or about August the 22nd. And towards that end, we are in the process of finalizing our procurement through OGS of our new process server. We had a 5-year contract with the previous vendor and had to put it out to bid. We anticipate, I believe it's this week, that OGS will be receiving the final bids. There had been a question process where they had asked some clarifying questions. OGS provided that response, and so now the final bids will be coming in, and then we will review those. Hopefully we will have at least one responsive and responsible bidder, and then with a new bidder we would have to then sit down with them, develop, formalize the process as to how we do it, which is spelled out in the RFP. But again, there are nuances to it, so we'd have to meet with the new vendor and go over that. But hopefully, if all goes according to Hoyle, we should have that in place for the August 22nd order to show cause. But as that is a date that we determine, there is flexibility in that, but we would like to stick to our normal schedule and process, and so that's our goal, is to have that in place on time for that. We did make our annual referral to the Albany County District Attorney of candidates and committees who failed to file their disclosure reports in 2012. There were 282 candidates and or committees which were referred, 123 state filers and 159 what we call county filers, and so that has been submitted to the district attorney. We had also issued earlier warning letters for the new penalty for what we call the three strikes for failure to file 3 or more times in an election cycle. Upon having our new vendor in place for the process serving, we will then effectuate that lawsuit.
How many of those got 3 strikes letters?
It was approximately a dozen, and then some came into compliance. But again, those folks will be then processed upon as soon as we have the process served. Also, in relation to the primary election, when the legislature moved the date of the runoff for the New York City elections. It also had the effect of moving the two runoff filings under the statute. There are two filings that have to be made relative to the runoff. There's a 4-day pre-runoff and a 10-day post-runoff. Prior to moving the election date, those two filings corresponded with previously existing filings, so we were able to accommodate those technologically and administratively. However, the moving of that date has caused some issues. We've had some conversations internally and also with the New York City Campaign Finance Board, and we anticipate this week moving forward to resolve those, to determine what our options are technologically and administratively. And then once we come up with the resolution, we will then notify the impacted filers and also make the appropriate notices on our webpage. So, but that is something we are working on. Education and training, they have been crisscrossing the state over this period of May, and it'll go through August, conducting 32 seminars of campaign financial disclosure, education, and training. And also, we just received a three-year renewal of our seminar accreditation for CLEs, the continuing legal educations, which Commissioner Kellner had been a strong proponent of, and so those are going strong. We still have, I think we have one in New York City that's coming up, I think August 13th. But again, that was good that we didn't have to reapply on an annual basis. So the audit staff has been working on the 2012 corporate overcontribution audit, as well as the last election cycle or legislative audit, in the process of doing the correspondence to and from the impacted corporations and committees, and we anticipate that'll continue till completion. And then also intake and the audit unit is also facilitating or working with our intake and processing folks, because that's a limited staff to assist in terminations and resignations and the assorted other work. I will point out that the folks in our intake and processing unit, which are the call center, they've been doing the yeoman's work, especially with the filing, with limited staff, and so but all told, I think under the circumstances, they do an exceptional job. With that, I'll take any questions.
Where do we stand with respect to the backlog in processing complaints for investigation?
Well, I think as of now, we have approximately 12 outstanding complaints, which is the lowest that we've had in all the years I've been at the board, which is over 12. I know that as we mentioned in our hearing testimony, our work on enforcement and investigations is one aspect of what we do. We try to do the daily administration of the unit and all the other projects that we oversee. But again, we proactively put those in our daily work to process them as we can. But right now, I believe there's a dozen, which again, I can't recall that we have ever had that few.
The only thing that you worry about, this is a really packed election year. That may be another dozen that come in the door.
Right. No, we are aware of them, and again, that's part and parcel of our daily work. And so
some of them, that would be great.
And where do we stand with judgment enforcement?
Well, again, I know that's an issue that Commissioner Kellner's keen on. We are not ignoring it. It's not something that we've been able to pull the trigger on. We had frankly anticipated that we would do that. We have not as of yet. We are aware of the circumstance, and we hope to do it when we can, and sooner than later. But again, with the current status on personnel in the unit, I just don't know specifically when that'll take place, but we are aware.
Well, Commissioner Kelton was right about that issue.
Right.
So one of the issues that, so loud, but he's right about it. He speaks about it all the time. Not that it's going to make anybody rich, this agency rich, but it's something people have to know. They have to,
That if they don't pay the judgments, we're going to go after them.
Right.
Well, we do. I would point out, collect on outstanding judgments on a regular and systematic way. When, as you know, when we get judgments against people, they're first filed here in Albany County, which is the site of the lawsuit, and then ultimately, after we send out the notices, we do then effectuate filing of that in their home counties, which then become attachments to their real property and also on their credit scores. And through that, it's passive in a sense, but we do on a regular and systematic basis get people to come into compliance through paying that. So.
Well, the thing that concerns me is where you have active campaign committees with funds in the bank and outstanding judgments. It seems to me that we should be levying on those judgments, and I would
Would be an
still,
easy way for us to get access. But
I mean, the commissioners have directed the staff to do that, and, we're waiting for the staff to carry out that directive.
I understand, Commissioner.
Thank you. Any further questions? ITU, Dave Loomis, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just want to point out, I did submit my report late, so that's coming if you haven't received it. There's one area I want to highlight is that we've been working with the new IT organization, ITS, to prioritize the projects that we have currently going on for IT and the ones that we anticipate working on next year. So we're working with the executives to come up with what are those projects that need to be funded and need to be pushed forward. From each agency is working, our agency is obviously specifically working on our projects. Two of the projects that I just want to point out is our Nysboe to refresh project. That project, we have to, obviously the system was implemented in 2007, and we're working with HP to come up with a plan that will carry us forward in the next 5 or 6 years or more. So that we shed more details over the coming months, and we anticipate starting that for the next fiscal year. And our campaign finance redesign project, that project we are currently working on from requirements gathering and coming up with making sure our technical staff has the capabilities to build out the new system. So those are two projects that are probably top two on our list right now that we're working on. So other than that, I can address any other questions that you might have.
Any further questions? Thank you, Dave. We have no old business on our schedule. New business, vote on petition determinations, any prima facie matters, determinations without hearings. Joe and Anna, please.
You have a report in your packet that you can adopt.
Yeah.
If you have any questions about it,
If you,
I'm not sure why we have it, but
Well,
we're happy to
just so I can-
collectively address it.
just so I can acknowledge that normally the council's office does do this, but I was busy with other things, so Anna, as she usually does, did most of the work. We do have, this is the prima facie records, and if you have any specific questions, I think we have the information there. It was all pretty straightforward, actually.
Anyone have any questions?
All right. The bottom of the list is not just prima facie, right? The bottom of the list says objections and specs filed.
That is correct. The petition invalid for insufficient signatures was based upon objections and specific objections that were filed. Basically, they said that there wasn't enough signatures filed, and upon account, all three of them were insufficient.
And the candidates were notified?
Not until you vote today.
We don't hold a hearing on insufficiency, it's only when there's
Oh, I
line
see,
by
'cause
line
this is-
objection.
Yeah.
There's no
Oh,
hearing
okay.
required.
So that would be the difference of specs that require a hearing. We didn't have.
This is just counting. In other words, it doesn't even have the signature, so it's not
Right.
ruling on validity. Okay. I move the adoption of the staff report.
No, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I vote for it, but I have
Carried.
questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
Go ahead.
Oh, good.
Ethel.
No, not important. I'll discuss it with all.
Item B, constitutional amendments.
Tom was just in here with a slightly reworded on the gaming version that we talked about just before coming in here.
The amendment?
I only had to go get us 8 copies, so you had one, so he's not back yet.
Okay.
So if we could perhaps go to one of the other items on the list, he'll be back shortly.
So we have to,
I was just
We have to wait.
change the, what was it, language, I think, a little bit.
Right.
Correct. Correct tense.
Correct.
That's right.
oh,
So I just wanted you to have
Or
a
instead of
copy.
or or something, yeah. So.
now you're an English teacher.
She was here a second ago, and I only asked him to make 8 copies, so either we take it out of order.
Families don't care about the tense.
We can move on. We'll move on to the next item. Item C, certification of upgrades to ES&S Central Count System. Anna and Joe Burns.
That report is in your packet. It was Bob Warren is here and he can comment further on it if you like. It required some functional testing on our part. There were no issues with any of the testing. The issues requiring this amendment to a fairly recent certification stem from some end-of-life issues. And Bob, is there anything you want to add to it?
No, it's just some minor tweaks that they wanted to apply to the system after they did the initial certification back in December. They worked out there were a few minor tweaks and additions they wanted to add to the software.
Did you think they were good? Did you think they were a good idea?
Yeah, they're not issues that the user would see. They're more internal issues, just to speed up a lot of the processing issues, so we process faster and things like that. So
Because I know
yeah.
you've always been on the money. You've always known exactly what should be done.
Yeah, no, they were appropriate, all those changes.
So
Erie County is awaiting delivery of this system, so when they notify of that, we'll take the new version of software. We're required to do acceptance testing on these systems as well. So if the board agrees to certify this amendment, then we'll be taking it with us when we go out to Erie County, probably late this week, next week.
I move the adoption of the resolution.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I'm not even going to compete with you gentlemen to be a second.
By all means, you move the next one.
Right. Are we going? Oh, we're going. Next one, D, continued certification of Sequoia Dominion Legacy Central Town Absentee System. Ann and Joe again.
That is this report concerns itself with the absentee system that the counties that do count centrally have been using for quite some time. There was a concern that some counties, perhaps for cost and other issues, reasons, wanted to continue to use that system, and we undertook functional testing. We conducted a survey of the county boards using the system to determine the level of confidence they had in it, to confirm the logic and accuracy of that system. We also wanted to confirm that they were following the regulations right now that govern the use of the central count system. We attached the questions we asked and the answers to that survey. No one had any issues with the accuracy of the system. The functional testing that we conducted was actually a bigger effort than the original certification test was. We had some 175,000 votes marked on ballots that we used in the functional testing. The test was successful. We did have, there's a different way to process ballots using this system, obviously, so there were some user issues that we encountered in the functional testing, and once the gentlemen that were conducting the testing became more familiar with how to respond to prompts that were on the screen, then they resolved those issues. So we have no issues, no reservations about asking the board to continue this certification. It looks like the only two boards that are going to continue to use it are New York City and Albany. And Albany is willing to migrate to a new system if there's one that meets their budget needs. Otherwise, they'll continue to use this one, or they'll find a way to use precinct-based scanners to count absentees so that they only have to build their ballot once. We're happy to answer any questions you have. Bob Warren's happy to speak to the report.
I appreciate the thoroughness of the report. I want to make specific note of the observation in the report that most of the counties had not been complying with the audit statute with respect to their central scanning systems, and I appreciate that you followed up on my recommendation that they be told that the statute does apply to them, and to review with them the procedures on how to do the audits of the central scanning systems. And I would ask that you follow up on that. The second thing that I noted in your report was promise that at the next meeting you will have the proposed changes where finally we will integrate 6511 into 6509. And I appreciate that the time has come to rework those old regulations. And I particularly appreciate the proposal to eliminate the idea of remarking or preparing duplicate ballots where a ballot was unscannable to conform to the current statutory rules. So thank you.
That was something that we had discussed. I'm sure some of the county boards aren't going to be happy about it, but it does result in ballots that are counted centrally being treated exactly the way ballots that are counted on election day are treated. We had a couple of definitions that we needed to add to the Part 6210 that were not carried over when those were drafted, and a couple of other ideas that were still bouncing around, but that is primarily the focus of it and probably the one that will have the biggest impact on the county boards. The other one is relates to the existing regulations require that you do your pre-election testing using the central count system, and that once you've canvassed all of your absentee ballots and affidavit ballots, if you use it for that purpose, you have to conduct the pre-election test again. And you have to do the 3% audit. So in the survey that we did with the county boards, a couple of them recommended that, you know, perhaps we could reconsider that second pre-election testing because the audit would be sufficient, and again, that would make the central count of scannable ballots exactly treated, have them treated the same way that the election day ballots are treated. If a ballot is not scannable in the remake world, then it's counted by hand, and the testing, provided they do the audit, and we will be following up with that. We've made it part of our acceptance testing to provide them with a copy of the regulation, again, the procedure, and also the sample forms that they should be using. So we've incorporated that into our acceptance testing. So the regulation changes that we're going to propose to you are fairly small in number, but a couple of them would have that bigger impact that you would need to consider.
Thank you. Does anyone care to make a motion?
Make your motion.
I second it.
No, make the motion.
Yeah, we're gonna have you make the motion. Can't second your own motion.
We have a
Get the
motion?
motion. That's the
Right.
chairman's
We have
job.
a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Oh, we are not ready yet on the certification of the, or are we?
I don't think we're ready yet.
Oh, okay.
Well, we can, are we on this item? Or
No, we go on to the next one. Item E. The request by the Citizen Union by Bill McCann, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have before the board a draft formal opinion. Citizens Union had posed a series of questions to the board concerning its activities and what impact that would have, those activities would have on its status as a political committee. This opinion goes at length to discuss the issues. Opinions are very specific to the questions posed by the organization, but oftentimes they can have applicability elsewhere. And so this has been vetted internally, and we believe that it's ready for the board to adopt.
Any questions or comments?
When was the last time we issued a formal opinion? A couple of years now.
1802.
But I'm pleased to have it as a formal opinion because the practitioners in this field do look for us for guidance, and it's good to record this so that practitioners can see what the precedents are.
Yeah, I think it's very thorough and well thought out, and I feel very comfortable in recommending it to the board for that.
Do you have any
I move the adoption of the opinion.
Second.
Second. Sorry, I haven't said that. You guys-
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Do we have any discussion on that? Do we?
No.
We can do that one now.
No, we can do that, yes.
And while we're waiting for the paperwork to arrive, we still haven't gotten that, correct?
There is just a typo in the first one. If we can talk about the order, I know Kim's working to get us the copy.
I can do a preliminary determination. We can, all right. It's in your packet. CMP 12-28.
The one comment I have on this preliminary determination is that it's about a subject that seems to come up fairly frequently, that most of the candidates and election lawyers are not that familiar with, which is the obligation to file public opinion polls that are run by campaigns.
Well, I think it's even more specific, Commissioner.
But go ahead,
There
Bill,
is-
why don't you, we don't have to get into the names of the people involved, but I think it's important to at least vet the issue a little bit so that people understand what we were addressing here.
Well, I think there's confusion because it's not so much that you conduct polls. A campaign can conduct all the polls they want. The question is what do they then do with the poll? Do they release results of the poll in an effort to influence the electorate based upon the result of the polls? So if you run a poll and you don't use it to influence the electorate, in essence make it public, then you have no obligation to disclose it. But certainly, in this case, I believe that, frankly, most people aren't aware of those obligations. I know that there are many requirements in the election law that just there's a general lack of awareness amongst people doing that. We do a lot of education, but again, that has ultimately a limited impact. But
Well, I think it's true. In our campaign finance disclosure handbook, I don't think even goes into the issue of filing public opinion polls, not that it's...
well, I believe it's
It's a
touched on, but we can
separate
certainly, I'll make a note that our staff should look at that to see if there's a way we can better address that in the handbook. But certainly, in this case, I don't believe there was any intentional withholding of the poll based upon the circumstances. So
I agree, because we have the candidate, in effect, disclose the poll on his own website, even
And a
though
press
he hadn't
release.
filed it with us.
Right. So,
I wonder if it would help if we had a place on our internet site for filed polls, and then people would at least be aware when they went to the website that that was something that they're supposed to do.
well, we can certainly explore that internally.
They will be on.
Candidly, we don't get all that many. It's very,
Well, we get more press inquiries about people who haven't filed,
right.
Yeah.
and then that usually generates compliance because somebody in the press has asked for the...
We get more calls with regard to federal, and the federal rules don't require them to be filed here. But because people understand our rule, we often get a lot of complaints in a federal election where they can release the poll or talk about the poll.
Right.
And our rule does not comply. So usually we get a lot of complaints. Was it filed? Was it filed? So that's where we get more of that activity. But certainly if we can provide clarity on the website with the other handbook information.
Yeah, it's just part of the handbook, so that information's there, but we know there's a difference.
And some of the polls, I'm sorry, some of the polls come out like 5 days before the end of the election. They come out very close.
Is it also
Maybe a
true,
week, maybe a week.
We're talking about candidate polls.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bill, is it also true, if I'm a
Yes,
candidate,
Yes.
I'm a candidate and I run a 20-question poll, and I release the results of 3 of the questions because the 3 answers are favorable to my campaign. Now, don't I have to reveal the rest of the questions and
Correct.
the answers?
The regulations are very specific as to what has to be disclosed on a poll. And again, in this case, the press release on the website for the candidate included the required detail. It just had not been formalized and filed here. But in that case, the poll was filed here prior to the complaint being received, and then all subsequent polls by the campaign were filed. So it was our determination that there was no intent to withhold the poll, especially since it was, again, issued in a press release and on the candidate's website, and then there was subsequent compliance timely. So under the totality of that, that was what we based our recommendation on. So.
Do we have a motion on that?
I move we adopt the report.
Evelyn?
Second.
We have a second by Evelyn. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And the paperwork has arrived.
No, I thought that was an excellent report on the poll issue. It went into the detail.
I did very good.
Well,
I was checking on the poll,
makes
look at the
sense.
poll.
Thank you.
If this has been distributed, I didn't get a copy.
It's adopted.
We're just checking it for the last
Oh,
one.
all right, you haven't passed it out yet. Okay.
Well, I did that once and it wasn't right, so I was making sure before I do it again.
These for us?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So I handed you a packet a few moments ago, and the top page of the, go ahead and go into it. So the top page, 3 pages of that are in place.
It's this.
Correct. And one of these is for Doug.
Doug?
Kim, did you give me all for the front?
2.
All of them, or did you pass out that side too?
They have theirs updated.
Okay. You said this for you?
Okay, that's, all right.
I'll give you a whole set. if you
Now,
want.
give me a minute to read.
Yeah, I never remember us getting something like that.
No, it was a few. You have the paper clip one, which is the amendment. And the rest are right here for all of them, and I'll go through quickly.
Well, we're going to number them now.
Yes.
So the top page is
Is
number
this one and
1.
one for me and one for
These
you?
aren't in order.
I'm confused now.
Do you want to?
We just call them out?
How did I call them out? Which is faster?
Yeah.
Just call them out, we can number them as you call them out.
Still a
Is
typo.
this, do you have a copy of
Can you
this?
amend it and we'll reprint it?
Can we make minor spelling
Page 2,
corrections
there's still a
after?
typo.
This is a horrible way to do business.
If we're allowed to correct that on page 2, we can substitute it in.
Where, job,
Page 2, second one from the bottom, first word.
Job.
We should take a
job,
break for this.
I'd love to have a job, but I prefer to have a job.
Yeah, I see it.
okay, sorry.
I don't even know if that's.
So the order that we have, there are 6, and is casino gaming, is Assembly Bill 8068. Veteran Civil Service Credit is Assembly Bill 4359.
It's actually resolution, not bill.
Is you correct? Sewage Facility Debt Service is Resolution Senate 4065. Number 4 is Long Lake Land issue is Senate 4689. Number 5 is the NICO Mining NYCO, and that's Senate 4688. And number 6 are the pages of judges, is A4395.
These are not the ones we're signing, is that correct?
Paper lands,
Bob?
Long Lake.
Kim, do we have a set for them just to sign? We need the 2 of you to sign them before you leave, so.
I just wrote the number 1 on one of these. It's just the
Jim?
first copy.
Or all of us?
Do you want me to go print
That's
another
right.
set with the numbers in it?
Are we going to vote for them all together or one at a time?
The casino. I just put the number 1 on the front of it.
I would,
Okay, I'll give you that.
I would,
All right, we got it.
Yeah, okay, I'll just give that to Greg. I'll take that. All set.
Usually we don't conduct ourselves this way. It's one of those times,
Right.
pending election, I guess.
It's a long wait. There's five.
No, it's 4.
All right, so you caught the typo. That's what Kim was
Correct.
talking about.
Number 2. Here's the sewage guys.
You have to sign the last page, guys.
County.
Number 4.
Metro, judges.
And then the judges.
Jim, so that's one.
Are we going to vote for them one at a time or all at once? Should we do like an all sign?
Been there.
No? Okay. I have them all. Now, is this 7 or 8?
6.
6. Why am I counting 7?
Probably because you probably have that line that I gave you with the typo ones.
Yeah, it's 6. I counted one twice. Oh, God. You should have paper clips on it. Yeah, 6. You got it, you take it today.
Weird.
We're on the same order, right? Yep, yep.
Here's the
Signing.
How many people are typing?
You're signing.
I don't think I helped.
Just a me or him.
That's the order I know.
Yeah, that you want.
Sounds like we need a vote.
Okay. I don't know who's going to read it.
Questions? What?
What? Oh, yes, I do. I'm sorry. I've got one thing on my mind. I do, absolutely.
Now, we only have 5 of them. I was missing the signature page for the,
Maybe not,
for
maybe
the
I'll-
judges.
Could I have one of them here, since our papers
I
are so
don't have
close?
that page. Tim's getting it.
It's just a generalized page.
Well, we could just take this and do this. then.
Which one is it? I'll give you one that I have it on these sides.
It's all right.
You sure?
Yeah.
Page 3.
Okay.
Okay. While everybody's doing this, I would like to, all right, I'll wait till Jim finishes.
Each one numbered individually.
We didn't vote on these.
No.
No, let's finish this up.
All
and
right,
then
we'll
we can
do
that.
this. I just.
So could we take a minute to just, what we've been doing is reviewing the form of the propositions and the supporting text that the State Board of Elections is required to certify for the county boards with respect to the 6 constitutional amendments that will be on the ballot in November. The law provides that the Attorney General is to advise us on the wording of the proposals and on the text of the summary. And we received that advice from the Attorney General last Friday, a week ago Friday. Since that time, there have been minor revisions with respect to some of that text. Would one of you just review what changes have been made from the official text that was recommended by the Attorney General? I think there were 2 of them that, at least 2 of them that I'm aware of, that had
There was a slight,
relatively minor changes.
there was a minor change on the second item, the veteran credit in the area of the abstract. To remove 2 words that disabled veterans are, it now reads disabled veterans are entitled to additional credit. It had said even more additional credit. So even more and additional were
Was
the same.
redundant.
Same word,
and
right.
yeah.
redundant. So we just took out the even more and left in additional credit. With regard to the gaming, which is number 1, the language for both the form of the submission and the abstract has been amended to, from what was proposed, to
Review the legislative purposes that
Correct.
were included
Included
in
in
the
this.
underlying statute.
correct.
And those are the only,
Those are the only 2
only
that
2 revisions, but they were subject to, I know, extensive discussions and careful vetting. And I think we've also agreed that we would, because of the relatively high profile and substantial interest in the press on the casino gaming issue, that we decided that it was in the best interests to list that first, so that to reduce potential voter confusion.
Can we do these in one vote, or we do them individually?
Okay.
One?
All right. I move that we adopt the text of the proposals and abstracts as revised and distributed, and that we further provide that the co-executive directors are authorized to make further revisions on consultation by telephone with the commissioners up until the actual certification date, which is next Monday.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something
Yes,
briefly?
please.
Yes. I'd like to tell everyone we were very happy today to sign Bob Rem for 4 more years as our executive director. And I think we both feel the same way, but I'd like you to say a word.
Well, Bob's done an excellent job, and so we're very pleased to reappoint him for a second 4-year term.
We're very proud of him. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
I think.
I don't know how condolences, what happy he is about it, but we're happy. Would you like to say something, Bob?
Appreciate it.
Afraid you'll tell the truth.
4 years, that's ugly. 4 more years.
4 more years.
I understand there is a personnel issue to discuss in executive session. Would someone like to make a motion?
Yes, we should probably talk about our next meeting
Yes.
date, but I move to go into executive session to discuss personnel and also
Yeah.
have a litigation matter I'd like to discuss in
Yes.
executive
You want to
session.
name the meeting date before we go in?
Right.
We talked about
September, right?
12th of September
September 12th.
and the 30th of September.
September 4th and 30th?
No,
30th.
12th.
The 30th is
September
we-
12th and 30th.
is the last day to certify the state ballot in case we receive any objections to certificates in the judicial.
Okay.
That would require a board vote before we can certify.
If there are,
If there
So
are
it may
any.
or may not actually be held.
It's one of those things we never
Right.
know, so you almost have to pencil
Right.
it in and plan on having it, and if nothing comes in, we usually won't know to the day before.
right,
It's that-
we have to
it's
schedule
that
the
ready.
12th for after the independent petition period,
Yes.
in case something comes in there, so you have to, and the week before that is Labor Day week, so. Okay.
And there's a holiday that
You want to schedule the 12th and then put a hold on in the event we may have
we
to go
probably
on
have to
30th?
schedule the 30th so that nobody else makes
Schedule
plans, and,
Pencil it in, so to speak.
right. I mean, we'll plan on it, but we really won't know to cancel it till really close to the last
We
minute.
really have to,
Right.
have to meet.
Well, cancel it, but whether it's, that's the time sensitive date, it's
Yes.
with regard to those
But there is
certificates.
nothing scheduled for the 12th at this point.
We would do both. I think
Well,
we do
that's right.
both. The 12th is the period of time that allows, if there are any challenges to independent nominating petitions, plus the normal work of the board. You know, we could possibly do it the week before, but there's a religious holiday that week, plus it would be very tight, and we're not sure we get all of our review done, timely for you.
So we're holding 2 dates, the 12th and the 30th, okay? Except, if there's no further business, we'll accept the motion to adjourn
Motion to executive
To
session.
executive session.
into executive session, yes. Thank you all.
John, you should stay for the litigation matter discussion.
Okay.